The reason this proposal exists is because they are trying to do an end run around the constitutional amendment process.
Instead of doing this the honest way, which is to go to Congress, you get a constitutional amendment, it gets ratified by the states, and now we've gotten rid of the Electoral College. Somebody said, that's a lot of work. That's not going to happen. What we can do is go to these states where people hate the Electoral College or don't understand it and it just sounds good, and we'll say, in this state, if we get enough other states to do it, as soon as we hit that number, each one of those states, promise that whoever wins the national popular vote, we will dictate our electors vote for that person.
Right. And they would need much fewer states to do that. I mean, if they get enough big states, they could do 11. They're going to need more than 11. But technically, they could do with 11. Probably 15 to 20, though, is not at all out of the realm of possibility. That 15 to 20 states could dictate to the other 30 to 35. This is what you're going to do from now on.
Let me see if I understand this. So using Colorado as an example, let's say that Colorado voted for Obama, which we did, but let's assume that the national vote went the other way. Or maybe let's go the other way. Let's go to back in 2000, where Colorado voted for George W. Bush in 2000, but the popular vote went to Gore. If this compact were in working order, our electors would have to vote for Al Gore, even though the people of Colorado voted for George W.
Right. Which is bad enough by itself, but then you combine it with everything I was saying about don't assume the two-party system still exists without the Electoral College. You cannot make that assumption. So now you have a world with 5, 6, or 10 candidates, and you don't need, the legislation, the Interstate Compact does not require a majority or even a large plurality to win. You could have 5, 6, 10 candidates, the biggest plurality base, say 15%, and that person is the winner. That person could rack up his entire majority in, say, Massachusetts and New York, or it could be Ron Paul getting it all in Texas, and it would not matter. Those people might not be on the ballot in Colorado because they didn't bother to qualify. Ron Paul never bothered to qualify here. He didn't care.
Let's do the hypothetical. So Ron Paul from Texas, libertarian-oriented Republican, I like him. If he ran and got all of Texas's vote and all of, let's just say, California or something else, and got enough popular votes, but he didn't even make it to the ballot here in Colorado, our Colorado electors, all 9 of them, would be forced to vote for Ron Paul when he didn't even make the ballot here. Not a single person here in Colorado voted for him, but by this ridiculous compact.
But it's, you know what, it's even a step worse than that. That's all true. It's even a step worse, which is that Colorado never took the time to appoint electors for somebody that did not qualify for their ballot. So Ron Paul has no electors in Colorado. So under the terms of this compact, Ron Paul can decide who represents Colorado in the presidential election. Do you think he's going to pick people from Colorado? No. I mean, why would he? They might not vote for him. He's going to pick people from Texas or whoever it was that was already dedicated. So Colorado would be represented by Texas in the presidential election.
What amazed me during the legislative session here, again, the voters here in Colorado, when it was on the ballot a couple years back, didn't have a shot. But in the session last session, it got this close. Matter of fact, I thought it was a foregone conclusion that this thing was going to pass. It failed. Why are they having so much success, and who's behind this?
I think, well, I'm not sure I can tell you for certain why it's having so much success. I think people don't understand the Electoral College. I think the soundbite for against the Electoral College is very easy. The president should have the support of most Americans. And people remember 2000. They don't think about all the things I'm talking about the two-party system. They assume it's just a situation where, oh, Al Gore, you know, ekes past George Bush, and so he gets to do it instead. And I think they just don't think about it, and it seems easy. And I think Democrats think they're supposed to be for or against the Electoral College if they are Democrats because of the whole Al Gore situation, and vice versa with Republicans. None of that is true. I mean, this is an institution that sometimes Republicans win with this institution, sometimes Democrats win. It's very cyclical, and it's an institution that's healthy for our country. This is not a question that should be decided with the reference of the last election. Definitely because this is going to be something that's going to change it for our generations to come. It will never go back, and we could mess with something we might not be able to change back. Who's behind this? How many states have already signed this compact, and where's this push coming from? If it failed at the ballot,
Why is it getting traction now in the legislature?
Well, there's a guy named Jon Caldara who apparently made all his money because he invented the scratch-off lottery ticket.
He invented this ticket, the lotto ticket where you scratch it off.
Apparently.
Can you help me win?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should ask the same question.
I can't believe it. So he invented this.
That's what I gather.
Better
yes.
than inventing whiteout. All right, go ahead.
That's what I gather. But my understanding, again, I've never met him and I've never talked to him about it, but my understanding is that he just doesn't like the Electoral College. And there were some professors who don't believe in the Electoral College who had this kind of, I think, crazy idea a few years ago. And he just decided to put all his money into making it happen. Or a lot of his money, I'm sure not all of his money. He decided to put a lot of his money into making it happen. So far it has been adopted by Maryland, New Jersey, Illinois, Hawaii, and Washington State most recently this year.
All right, so all pretty left-leaning states. And Colorado, having a very left-leaning legislature and governor right now, it got really close to
It got close in Colorado.
How real is this threat?
I think it's really real. I think that people are not paying attention. I think the legislators aren't paying attention. I think it seems like a no-brainer to some people who don't understand the Electoral College. And unfortunately, I think a lot of state legislators have been voting for it without understanding it and without thinking it really matters that much. And they're completely wrong. And not only, well, the legislators definitely need to pay more attention, but we as voters need to pay attention to make sure that our legislators pay attention, that they educate themselves about this and understand. I know you've heard me say before, John F. Kennedy was a great supporter of the Electoral College, and he actually had an analogy that I think is great. He said, this is like a solar system of governmental power, and you can't expect that you'll change one aspect of it and leave everything else unchanged. If you change the gravitational pull of the sun, you mess up the orbits of all the planets, you make Earth uninhabitable. In the same way, we cannot assume that if we pluck the Electoral College out of our existing constitutional structure, that there will be no change. It will probably change an awful lot of stuff.
We've only got about a minute left.
Okay.
If this thing were to pass, if this were to become the law of the land, again, making an end run around the Constitution, what states are going to be most disenfranchised? It seems to me that the populous states are going to have more pull. California, New York, Texas, Florida, they're going to do very well. Illinois, they'll be battlegrounds. What about all of us in the middle?
I actually think it's not even about the states anymore, it's about the urban centers. I just think the big urban centers will have the most pull. I think if you go out to Paris, Texas, which most of people in Colorado probably never heard of, but exists, who cares?
The Riviera of the West, Paris, Texas.
Never been there.
All right, so where there's urban centers, where there's one big media group, where there's one big media market, candidates can hang out there, get those people because you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck.
Strategically speaking, from a candidate's perspective, that makes the most sense.
People want to get more information on this. Where's a good place to go?
My book is at electoralcollegebook.com. There's also a group.
Again, this book, Enlightened Democracy, The Case for the Electoral College. All right.
And you could also go to saveourstates.com, which is a group of people like me who are trying to fight off this legislation.
Tara Ross, I appreciate it.
Thank you
for being here.
Thank you.
All right, do me a favor, check out our webpage, independenceinstitute.org. For good podcasts, it's ivoices.org. Listen for me late nights on 850 KOA. By all means, tell a friend, and we'll see you next week. I mean, you keep on talking, but you don't know where to turn it off. The day I met you, wish I'd been in Barrie or on the ocean, a million miles to sea.